Hey guys, so thanks for clicking this video. Today I want to talk to you about the Cloud Cuckoo Land. This is a novel by Anthony Doerr, who's also the writer of All the Lights We Cannot See, a pretty famous book that got awarded the Pulitzer Prize. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the book itself, the characters, kind of give you a little bit of a background, and kind of explain what I think about it and why I think it. So the book itself, it's pretty large. It's like 600 pages, and it's kind of like a nice illustration of what is going on around us currently. And it is being published in 2021, so it was last year. So it kind of shows you what do creative people think of the world currently and what are like the kind of like the general temperature in the room. And if you look at what people are actually thinking about what's going on in the world, it's not great, right? So we have very popular projects like Don't Look Up comedy on Netflix, which kind of talks about our inability to see, dangers that are around us and the inability to react to them and counter-react and do something about it. There are shows like Succession that explain how large empires, tumble, and how people inside those empires want to cut each other's throat. There are people who are doing finance, like Ray Dalio. They talk about the lessons from history that they have learned and how they feel the current United States position is going to be, thrown, and we'll see kind of like the slow demise of this empire. So it's all a lot of doom and gloom, and I guess that's why people are, especially those who are watching Succession, they're actually buying the Demise and Fall of the Great Roman Empire. It was like a huge number of very thick books, and they kind of want to learn more about it. So where does this book stand, and how does it kind of look at the whole picture? So what is the Anthony Doerr's look at this whole thing? And this is what I want to talk with you about today. So a couple of words about the author. So I think me, as many of you who's watching, first kind of got to know him through All the Lights We Cannot See, which is a wonderful novel. And I remember taking a flight from Europe to Los Angeles, and I was on a very long flight. It was like 12 hours, and I was finishing this novel on my Kindle. I was very emotional at the time. It was like a pivotal moment in my life, and I was so emotional. I was crying a lot, and I thought, wow, this is a very good novel. This is a very interesting story, and he's a very good writer, which he is. I still think that he's a very good writer. And this book kind of, just another way of saying that he is a very good writer. This is like a 600 pages long novel, and you go through it like very easily. Maybe you can read it like in a week. So what is it about? So I think it might seem like it's a very confusing structure, but it's actually all very straightforward. So basically, there are a number of stories that are all interconnected, and there's a second story on top of that. So we start our journey in the year whatever, in the far future, on board of a spaceship, and there is this girl who's talking with the artificial intelligence in the room, and she's kind of writing some notes, and slowly, chapter by chapter, the story unfolds, but it's all very non-linear. So at first we're on a spaceship, then we're taken back to our time, where a translator and a couple of school kids are doing a performance. They're doing a play. and he's kind of helping them there. And then we move to ancient Constantinople, where it's on this brink of being conquered by a sultan, and we meet Anna, a girl who's living in this society where she's not really treated nicely, and she learns to read. So she learns to read Greek, and then she kind of reads different books, and she finds an ancient library. There's a lot going on there as well. And although it seems very fragmented, and there are like a lot of bits and pieces here and there, it's actually all connected by this other, like an arching story, which is a story that is actually called Cuckoo Land. And this is a made-up novel, ancient Greek novel, by a very real author, Anthony Doerr, who wrote this as a message for his niece, who was unwell. And it was written sort of like as a way to support her and give her something interesting to read about. So that's kind of like the gist of it. So inside the novel, this is a very lengthy one, there's a lot going on there. There are a couple of different topics or other themes that I want to highlight. And I think those stood up for me personally. So I don't mean to say that these are like the only themes in this project, but those are the ones that resonated the most with me. The first one is basically the demise and the fall of humanity. I mean, Anthony Doerr, as if you can figure out from his previous novel, is not really a big fan of humanity. So he thinks that our governments, they eat themselves, there are wars, there is climate change, and all those things that are kind of destroying the gift of life and how we should be living and so on. And I think in this book in particular, he does a wonderful illustration, because it's not just one time period. He kind of walks us through this story of the destruction of Constantinople and it being destroyed by another power kind of coming in and bringing new weapons that are shooting rocks and metal into the huge walls that are kind of covering the whole city. And those walls eventually they crumble. Although they have been standing there for centuries, they eventually fall down. And then there is the story in our world, in our time, where another big event is happening, and it's also kind of connected with destruction. So I don't want to spoil it for you guys, because it's really all super connected. Then there is a depiction of war in Vietnam, another horrible thing. And finally, then there is the story about this spaceship that is moving to a distant planet, and the people on the spaceship, they most likely will never see the final destination. So there should be a couple of generations before they actually get to where they're going. And it's like this very bleak, doomed kind of take on the world and humanity and our lives in general. There is sort of like another side to it. So this was like the bad thing, the kind of like the Black Mirror look. But there is another big theme there. And that theme is actually very much connected with the story itself. So Anthony Doerr shows the story Cloud Cuckoo Land as a story that helps us get through. So as I mentioned, so the real author that wrote this fictional book, he wrote it for his niece in the time when she wasn't really feeling very well and where was kind of most likely to die. So he wrote it for her to kind of keep her spirits up, to keep her get through and maybe show her what life is all about. It was kind of like this fable preachy kind of story, which was also very fun and grotesque and stupid and so on. And we see in every little time period that Doerr kind of throws into his novel that time and time again people turn to these kind of old stories to make themselves feel a little better, to make themselves feel like maybe it's not the end of the world. And it doesn't matter where you are in life and when you are in life, whether you're like in Constantinople or whether you are in United States or Australia in our time, or whether you are in, on the spaceship in the far away in the blackness of space, you still have these stories that kind of help you live. And I think that's one of the more powerful messages of this novel. And one of the things that really stands out in this book is that Anthony Doerr really loves storytelling. He's a wonderful storyteller. He knows very well how to, organize the plot, how to create characters, how to put words in their mouths, and how to add, descriptions to make sure that this whole world is alive. And as I was reading it, I kind of caught myself thinking that my imagination was working 100% with this book, because I started hearing like the music on the streets of Constantinople. I kind of heard the silence in this library when they were rehearsing the play, and all of the other things. I think he's a very powerful writer. He's doing a very good job with this thing. So his previous novel, All the Lights We Cannot See, received the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. And that's a big thing. They don't give these kind of prizes for nothing. So the Goldfinch from Donna Tartt got this reward. So it's like a very big thing to give to a writer. And of course there was a lot of, pressure on the author to put something that is not, if not better, then at least on the same level as All the Lights We Cannot See. So is it a Pulitzer material kind of story? In my opinion, it's not. And it doesn't mean that this is a bad book in any way. I think it's a good book. You can definitely give it a chance. You can read it. But there's just something missing in it. And if you look at stories like Little Life, or stories like My Absolute Darling, or even stories like All the Lights We Cannot See, you kind of start to understand why. Because there is something inside those novels, there is something inside those characters and plot lines that's kind of transcends time and space. That's kind of more than you actually expect. And this means that you can come back to these novels time and time again. They are basically becoming modern classics. This, though, I do not feel like this is one of them. Although it definitely follows the current agenda, it definitely gives you a look at whatever's, Anthony Doerr's kind of perspective of what's going on in the world and how he feels the world works and what's his attitudes and so on. There are a lot of things to digest and study here, so I'm sure people will enjoy this title. But I don't feel like it's going to be on the same level as All the Lights We Cannot See or some of the other books that I've mentioned. Doesn't mean that it's bad. I think it's a very solid thing. And it is a very easy read, so you can go through it like maybe in a couple of days if you're a super serious reader or something like that. But yeah, I do feel like that it lacks a little bit of this fictional cliche kind of soul that there, makes some books great and some books just good. So there you have it. What do you guys think? Did you like this novel? Have you read it? What are your thoughts of the characters or the plot? I would love to hear your comments. So please leave them in the comment section. And as always, like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.